I call the order the meeting of the Verona Common Council for Monday, September 22nd, 2025 at 7 p.m. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we'll have the roll.
Alderperson Harrison.
Here.
Alderperson Helmke.
Here.
Alderperson Hoax.
Present.
Alderperson Keller.
Here.
Alderperson Lytle.
Here.
Alderperson Swanson.
Here.
Alderperson Tucker Long.
Here.
And Alderperson Weiss.
Here.
All right, we have quorum, so we can proceed. We'll move on to item 4, which is public comment. If any members of the public wish to speak, now would be the time to do so.
My name is John Kruger. Here to introduce myself, my wife Sue Lamatia, Chris Kempfer, Dave and Carrie Coomer. We're all residents of the Ridgeview Trail Westridge Estates neighborhood. And to talk about on August 20th, when officers and paramedics were called to a house at 209 Ridgeview Trail. And at that time, speaking to the officers, we found out that not only were they not aware, but we as residents of the neighborhood were not aware that 209 was operating as a group home. And it kind of came to a surprise to us and the officers, because of one of the facts for us as residents that surprised us was the fact that the owner of this house is renting it to a business out of Madison. I believe it is called United Care of Madison LLC, and they are the operators of it. The owner of the house is actually a convicted felon who has drug arrests on his record. On April 24th of 2017, he was convicted of a felony count for drug manufacturing and intent to deliver. That is a point of concern for us. Question we have is, has the council approved a permit for a group home to be operating? Were the proper procedures followed for this permit being issued? And, you know, has the board done background checks? Has DHS done background checks to make sure that it is a safe functioning group home for the residents in the facility?
I'm a licensed independent social worker. I'm here as his wife, though, and a community member. I think we need to really consider the population being served at this group home. They are largely a vulnerable population due to developmental or intellectual disabilities, behavioral health issues, or other cognitive impairments. And they are being placed in this setting because they cannot live alone, or they do not have the adequate supports at home to live with family. And in large part, they likely lack the capacity to make their own healthcare decisions, so they either have a guardian or an activated healthcare power of attorney agent that has placed them in this home. And I feel like as a community, we have a responsibility to assure that all the processes were followed to license this group home in order to assure the safety of the residents. Finally, as John pointed out, it's my understanding that DHS would require background checks for the employees, for contractors who have regular contact with the clients. And I would think the owner of the home that has access to the home and access to the clients would also have to undergo a background check. If I was a parent of an adult child with a disability, I would be very concerned if my child was in a home that could be accessed by a convicted drug felon. And he had spice, cocaine. It was a significant bust. So we wanted to share our concerns.
And to the best of our knowledge, living there, we see the owner of the house coming and going as if he did prior to this being open. So to the best of our knowledge and my belief, he's still living there. and is still occupying it along with the residents of the house. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We are still in public comment. If any other members of the public wish to speak, now would be the time to do so.
My name is Dale Vesky, 6422 Shady Bend Road, Town of Verona. This is just around the corner from the Smith property that the city is looking at for a new public works facility. We have several other neighbors along tonight. Janet Nodorf is here behind me, Randy Nodorf, and David Skidmore, also residents of Shady Bend Road. We are all concerned about the negative impacts the proposed facility may have on our neighborhood. My main concerns are the Public Works facility violates the comprehensive plan regarding a residential transition area. The Public Works facility would put heavy traffic in the form of many large vehicles on a road, Shady Bend Road, not built for that level of traffic or that kind of traffic. It risks pollution of the many private wells in the area. All of those houses on Shady Bend have private wells, private septic systems on site. As far as the violating the comprehensive plan, map 2 in the city's comprehensive plan shows the Smith property as a 40-acre parcel in a residential transition area between the commercial areas along Liberty Drive and the Shady Bend neighborhood residential area. Transition implies to me that this area was identified to be developed as a buffer between the more commercial and industrial areas in the Liberty Drive development and the residential neighborhood along Shady Bend Road. Placing the Public Works site directly on Shady Bend would preclude the creation of the transition area as proposed in the comprehensive plan. My second point, the traffic impact. Shady Bend Road was recently resurfaced with an additional layer of asphalt and chip seal over the old deteriorating pavement. It's currently in great condition. I don't know the age of the original pavement underneath that new blacktop, but I know it's quite thin. Snowplows have been able to peel the asphalt right off, and there's not much of a base under that. I doubt that that pavement will be able to withstand the weight of many heavy vehicles, fully loaded salt and sand trucks and snowplows and the like going up and down it often. And that would be especially true during the spring thaw period when the roads are posted with weight limits as the frost comes out of the ground. Third, I'm concerned about the risk of pollution from salt sheds contaminating the groundwater. Much of the 40-acre parcel and the surrounding neighborhood are identified as internally drained. I recognize that salt sheds are closely regulated by Trans 277 and monitored by DNR, but any accidental spills or leakage have the potential to go straight into the groundwater. Trans 277 puts the onus for detecting any possible pollution on the well owners rather than on the salt shed owners. To summarize then, following three aspects of the proposed public works building require particular attention: lack of a transition area, impact on heavy traffic and heavy vehicles of the road, and the risk of salt pollution entering the groundwater. Thank you for your consideration of these issues as you continue your search for a new public works site.
Thank you. We're still in public comment? So, oh, yeah, absolutely.
Janet Nodorf. I'm at 6415 Shady Bend Road on the same topic of the public works. As neighbors and future residents of Verona, we share a commitment to safety, good planning, and protecting the quality of life that makes our city special. That's why we urge you to oppose placing the public works facility on Shady Bend Road. This proposal conflicts with the values we uphold. It is a quiet residential neighborhood with homes to families, children, and longtime residents, including myself, for over 30 years. Routing heavy trucks, snowplows, and semis down a narrow road without sidewalks creates a real risk. It endangers pedestrians, cyclists, and burdens a very congested highway. In addition, I walk every day, as many of the other neighbors do, and we are concerned about safety from that perspective. My son, who is now in his 30s, one day when he was a young child, was going down one of the neighbors' driveways onto Shady Bend Road, and I was across the road in my yard, and I could see a dump truck coming on Shady Bend. There's a little bit of a hill there, and I knew he was coming down because I could hear him, and I yelled, stop, Brian. And I still remember that because he was coming down the driveway. He couldn't see because there's trees, but I could see him, and I could see the dump truck, and I could see that becoming more frequent. Another incident we had over 20 years ago, someone after the last Shady Bend had the resurface, someone came around the corner of Shady Bend, which is where the proposed property begins, and they hit a tree. I don't know how fast they were going, but the curvature on that is dangerous, causing issues for, again, pedestrians and vehicles because of the curvature. It threatens the character of Verona. Mature oaks and walnut trees would be cleared for the site, bringing noise, bright lights, and diesel fumes into an area the city owns. And again, the comprehensive plan is designed for residential and not heavy municipal use. We want a quiet rural area where we can relax, have quiet space, and enjoy the outdoors. Beyond safety and environmental concerns, this project jeopardizes the investments we have made in our homes. Property values in Shady Bend reflect a lot of hard work and community pride, and an industrial facility in the middle of the neighborhood undermines that. In addition, we have a lot of wildlife such as turkey, deer, squirrel, rabbits, birds, skunks, etc., that would have to find a new home. We agree Verona needs a modern public works facility, but it must be placed where it supports the city's growth, not where it conflicts with the city's vision. Together, we can find a site that protects safety, honors the comprehensive plan, and preserves the Verona we call home. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We are still in public comment, so if any other members of the public wish to speak, now would be the time to do so. I'm not seeing anyone approaching. I do want to clarify, I guess, a couple of things. One, under the Wisconsin state statutes regarding the open meeting laws, we cannot, the council and myself cannot talk about anything that's not on the agenda. That would include the public comments regarding 209 Ridgeview Trail and the ones regarding the future siting of the Public Works Building. But I guess what I would say is that we take all feedback seriously, and that I think that we will definitely look into the 209 Ridgeview Trail stuff. I don't have the state statutes off the top of my head. I think we have some work for our city attorney to look at, as well as our zoning administrator to figure out the situation. I guess if our attorney would permit me one question for the public speaker. Does someone at the city have your contact information? Or could you reach out? Yeah, absolutely, because then we can give you yeah, if you could write like your email, then we can give you a follow-up once we've done research into it.
My email also.
Awesome.
I can stick around afterwards if anybody has any questions, if that's appropriate or not.
I mean, it's up to you. Sometimes these meetings might, I don't know, does anyone have any guesses? An hour or two? It might be a while.
If anybody wants me to, yes, no, then I'm not good.
Okay. Someone will follow up. And then regarding the Public Works Building, we expect to be discussing it October 13th, after staff does some more research on the site. But appreciate the feedback, and obviously, even if we're not discussing it tonight, alders are thinking about it, so I think you're at the right meeting. So unless anyone has any more public comment, we will move on to the next item. Seeing no one else approaching the table, we will move on to item 5, which is approve the minutes from the September 8th, 2025 council meeting. Questions, comments, corrections, or motions to approve the minutes? Alder Tucker Long.
Move to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve by Alder Tucker Long. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Humke. Last chance for corrections. Seeing no hands. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the September 8th, 2025 common council meeting, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. And the minutes are approved. We'll move on to item 6, which is mayor's business. First up, we have 6A, which is the trick or treat proclamation, which I will read to you shortly. It's not very long. In the interest of promoting Halloween safety for Verona area children, I, Luke Diaz, Mayor of the City of Verona, hereby proclaim the official hours of trick-or-treating in the City of Verona to be between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. on Friday, October 31st, 2025. All right, and moving on to item 6B, which is regarding the Verona Senior Center Trishaw Bike presentation. Mr. Olick? Or Mr. Grell?
I believe, yes, our staff member, Mara Trustee, does have the photos.
Great. Good evening, council members. My name is Lee Burrell. I'm a retired citizen of the city of Verona, and I'm here tonight to share some good news about a bike that now is the property of the city of Verona, specifically the senior center. So that's what you see there is called a Trishaw. It is a Van Ram Chat. Van Ram is the manufacturer, the Chat is the model of it. And let me tell you a little story. I know I have limited time, but let me tell you a little story about how this came to be. Back in October of 2023, I was riding my bike back home, and I passed by the Military Bridge Bike Trail, and I happened to see...
I don't think the people that are not in the room will be able to hear you if you don't hit the mic light.
Right there. Okay.
Sorry.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. So back in October of 2023, I was riding my bike back from Sugar Creek, and I passed by the Military Ridge Bike Trail, and I happened to see Stephanie Ale in a Trishaw, and she was going down the trail. I just caught the tail end of her. So I started following her, and I had never met Stephanie before that. So long story, I follow her back to the, and she's a passenger along with somebody else, and there's a pilot. And it's not that Trishaw, and it's not one that looks like that, but it was a different one. So Stephanie and I started a conversation about where the bike came from and how it's available for the senior citizens of the senior center to ride in, and so forth and so on. Long story. In November of that year, Stephanie and I met, and I proposed to her that I lead a fundraising campaign to purchase one of our own. She was very excited about that. In December of 23, I met with the subcommittee of this council and formally asked for permission to move forward with a fundraising campaign, and they were enthusiastic about that. And then the fundraising actually began in late February of 2024 and set the goal of raising $15,000 to pay for the purchase of the bike and the transporting of the bike from overseas to the United States to Verona. By mid-March of 24, I had met 60% of the goal of the fundraising, and that allowed us to order the bike. So the bike was ordered on March 18th of 2024. By mid-April of 2024, we had fully met and it actually exceeded our fundraising goal of $15,000, and then the wait began. And we waited and we waited and we waited, and it finally appeared here in Verona on August 22nd of this year. So that's 522 days from the time of order to the time of delivery. So we appreciate everybody's patience in awaiting that. This is part of a program known as Cycling Without Age. It's an international program that started in Copenhagen, in 2012. It's got 41 countries that it has active chapters in. There are 3,500 chapters in those 41 countries, and 20 other countries are coming online. There's 6,000 trishaws, not all like that, but that's the majority of what they look like. There's 43,000 trained pilots across the world, and they've given over 5 million rides to 1.5 million people. So the effort is to get seniors that might have limited mobility out to enjoy a ride on a trail or on a street, and as the Cycling Without Age likes to say, the right to have wind in your hair. So this effort was made possible by very generous donors. We had a total of 23 donors, and we raised a little over $15,500 for that. So that more than paid for the bike, and it provides a little fund balance for maintenance and so forth going forward. So Stephanie and her staff have been delightful to work with, and we're excited to be able to offer rides to seniors coming soon. I believe Brian and Stephanie are working on insurance waiver, and so as soon as that gets processed, we'll get people signed up. And we have a information session for pilots to be this coming Wednesday from 2:30 to 3:30. We'll talk about expectations of what piloting is, and then we'll schedule a training sessions later after we have the insurance issues all worked out. So again, my gratitude to the 23 different donors that made this possible. My gratitude to Stephanie and her staff for hanging in there through those 522 days, and Jamie and some other members of the city staff have been able to take a ride in there. It's a good time. It's a good time. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Gorell? Alder Harrison.
Without spoiling too much the information session you have coming up, what is the general education look like for becoming a pilot?
Sure, thank you. The biggest ask is time. We're going to require people to donate at least an hour. They don't have to do it every week or things like that, but they can't just donate a 15-minute section, so it has to be an hour, and that will account for essentially 2 rides, what we're planning on. Pilots should have some experience riding bike. You don't need to have maybe as much experience as I do, but some familiarity. And even though people might have a lot of experience on a bike, this is a different animal altogether. It operates more like a car than it does a bike. It's electric assist. And true to its name, the pilots should feel free to and be comfortable chatting with the passengers. But other than that, the requirements, the training sessions, we'll go through the operation of the bike, we'll go through safety precautions, et cetera, and those won't be too onerous.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Well,
all right.
Thank you so much.
So, council members, if you see it on the street and there's only one person in it, pull out outside, we'll give you a ride in it. So I've been telling people that I bought my first car in 1980 and I paid $600 for it. This bike was $15,000. But it's a nicer bike than my car was, I might add, too. Have a good evening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, that concludes mayor's business. We'll move on to item 7, which is announcements. Any announcements from the council? Alder Tucker Long.
Staff cards are going around, so make sure you sign them before you leave. And also, I just wanted to let everyone know that our brand-new leaf vacuum truck has arrived, so Public Works is very excited about this. And you can see it tomorrow at the Verona Public Library. It is a kid and family-friendly Wisconsin Stormwater Week event, and it will be from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at the Verona Public Library. And rumor has it you could give some input on what the new truck is named if you come to the event tomorrow. So if you'd like to see our fun new truck, please stop by the library tomorrow. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other announcements from the council? Seeing no more hands, we will move on to item 8, which is the administrator's report. Mr. Alec.
I'm a little biased on the Leaf Erickson name for the truck, so that was actually Alder Harrison had come up with that one. Oh yeah. But anyway, I just have a few updates as well. For purchasing property at Shady Bend or Whalen Road, we're continuing to gather information in response to the questions that were raised at the September 8 council meeting. We've reached out to Barrientos Design and Consulting, who did the initial kind of need study, and asking them to provide a cost estimate to update the needs plan or the study, with the goal of verifying the land requirements of the facility. So we're still kind of working through what was raised at that meeting and trying to get questions answered. Another update, we are having a comprehensive plan open house for Envision Verona comprehensive plan or comprehensive plan update. It's on Tuesday, September 30th at the Verona Senior Center from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. and then again at the Verona Public Library from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Again, that's Tuesday, September 30th. Draft recommendations shaped by feedback will be presented, and the community will have the opportunity to provide input before the plan is finalized. So that's the goal. Lastly, I have one just note in the explanatory memo for Apex Phase 2, and that is the updated agreement reflect that improvements will commence around November 15, 2025, and take approximately 18 months. So it's, again, we're in the middle of going back and forth with the agreement, but we believe all the main elements are there for the Phase 2 agreement. Other than that, Mayor, that's all I have.
No, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Alec? Seeing no questions, we move on to item 9, which is the engineer's report. Ms. Fisher.
Thank you. For the new Country View Road projects, infiltration basin and ponds are under construction, and some paving work is underway at the intersection of Country View Road and Webb Road. For the Mark Drive, Rita Ave, and Plimpton Street reconstruction project, Phase 1 construction began on September 2nd, with work currently focused on Plimpton Street between Rita Ave and West Lawn Ave. Phase 1 construction will be suspended this winter and resume next spring. For the Edward Street project from West Ridge to Thompson Street, construction is planned to begin later this month or possibly early October and be completed by early November. For the North Booster Station project, final testing was performed earlier this summer, and results showed that the well met DNR standards. Once final landscaping and punch list items are complete, the project will be finalized. For Ardent Glen, water main and storm sewer construction is wrapping up. For SSM, construction of Valley Road is underway. And finally, Cohiba Pond, which is a small man-made dry detention basin on the west side of Cohiba Court, and it was constructed in 1997 as part of the Gateway Estates subdivision, requires maintenance to improve stormwater treatment and general neighborhood aesthetics through native seeding. Since this pond was identified by DNR as a potential wetland, the city staff submitted a wetland exemption request to DNR, which was approved. And so now the city is going to determine exactly what the plan will look like for that pond. I just want people to be aware of it. And then Alder Tucker Long mentioned the upcoming event tomorrow. So with that, I can take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions on the engineer's report? Seeing no questions, we'll move on to item 10, which is committee reports. First up, we have 10A, which is Finance Committee. Alder Humke.
Yeah, thank you. I move payment of the bills in the amount of $582,900 $987.63.
Motion by Alder Humke. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Harrison. Alder Humke.
Yeah, so we have two large payments. The first is to Danton Construction Services for the Epic Park improvements in the amount of $130,417. And the second one is to R&T Vogely Excavating for sidewalk replacement at West Verona Avenue and Harvest Lane in the amount of $63,318.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions or comments on the motion to pay the bills? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of paying the bills in the amount specified signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? And that motion, that was really late. That motion passes. Alder Humke.
Yeah, I move to deny the claim for Madeline Anderson. And Mr. Olick, I have to do these individually, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Alder Humke.
Go ahead.
Motion for the denial of claim. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Lytle. Anything to add, Alder Humke?
Yeah, so a sewer backup occurred on July 30th, 2025 at 304 East Verona Avenue. Under Wisconsin law, a municipality does not face liability unless there is a known danger that is compelling enough to warrant specific, non-discretionary action by the municipality. Lodel versus Progressive Northern Insurance Company, 2002, Wisconsin 71, 253, Wisconsin, I don't know how to say that, 2D 323, 646 Northwest 2D 314 sections. Wisconsin courts have developed a three-step test to determine whether the known and compelling danger exception applies in a given case. Number one, whether something happened to create a compelling danger. Number two, whether a government actor found out about the danger, making it a known and compelling danger. And three, whether the government actor addressed the danger by taking one or more precautionary measures, or instead did nothing and let the danger continue. According to Hauser versus Community Insurance Corporation, 2009 Wisconsin App 151, 27 through 28, 321 Wisconsin 2D 729, 774 North NW 2D 653. In this case, if the city has a sewer maintenance plan in place, which is routine cleaning, maintenance, and inspection of pipes, and had no notice of any problems in the area prior to the date of the loss, it is Civmix, the city's insurance carrier's opinion that there is no evidence to show liability on the part of the city. Based on the recommendation of the city's insurance carrier, staff recommend denial of the claim. If denied, claimants have 6 months from the receipt of the letter to denial to appeal.
Thank you for that explanation. Any questions or comments on the denial of claim? Alder Weiss.
What's the frequency that this happened? I seem to remember this same thing coming before this council. Was it like 6 months ago? Wasn't there a similar thing like this that happened?
Mr. Olick?
Yes, occasionally we will have a claim filed and we have to go through the process in this particular case to deny the claim. But yes, occasionally things crop up where people feel, they file a claim with the city and we consider it and go from there.
It was in a different location the last time.
There was Eastview Road, the construction project last year.
Was it a similar mechanism, or was it wholly
No.
different in terms of like the underlying cause of why it happened? Do we know?
I don't recall.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions or comments on the denial of claim? Mr. Olick?
Sorry, one quick comment. The same criteria apply to all three claims. So Alder Helmke, I don't think you have to read that 2 more times.
Alder Lytle.
My recollection of the claim at Eastview was actually a storm event and flooding occurring over land, not any kind of sewer backup. So there's, at least in the time I've been on council, not issues cropping up continuously with our sewer system, sanitary sewer system. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the denial of claim for Madeline Anderson signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that claim is denied. Alder Humke.
Yeah, make a motion to deny the claim for Philip Ender.
Motion by Alder Humke. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Harrison. Alder Humke.
Yes, the same description as the previous one that I read. It's the same exact situation.
Thank you. Questions or comments on this denial of claim? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the denial of claim for Philip Ender signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And the claim is denied. Alder Humke.
I make a motion to deny the claim from Pat Ellie.
Motion by Alder Humke. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Keller. Anything to add, Alder Humke?
I do not.
Questions or comments on this motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the denial of claim for Pat Ellie signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that claim is denied as well. Alder Humke.
Yeah. I move to approve the budget to renovate the building located at 130 North Franklin Street, not to exceed $40,000.
Motion by Alder Humke. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Tucker Long. Alder Humke.
Yeah, at the church's request, the lease for the Redeemer Bible Church at 130 North Franklin Street expired on September 15th, 2025. To prepare the building for city use, staff have developed a renovation budget. Proposed improvements include fob access and door rekeying, gutter covers, IT infrastructure, furnishings, signage, construction, and electrical work. Funding will come from revenue generated by leasing the building. No additional funds beyond existing resources are requested. Staff recommended approval so the building can be made available for community use.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions or comments on this motion? I have one quick question for staff. When do we anticipate this being open to the public to rent or go to programs at?
Actually, I'll defer to Casey on
Okay.
this one.
Mr. Dudley.
The plan would be for the first of the year, January 2026.
Excellent. Thank you. Other questions or comments? No. Alder Hooks.
At the time that we initially discussed this, I think back in like April or May, I remember there being discussion about being able to do like the after-school care at this facility. Would that begin in 2026, or is there a schedule for that, or is that still TBD as far as how
No,
that
it would
works?
be in January as well.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Other questions or comments from the council? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the budget for renovations for the building located at 130 North Franklin Street in the amount specified signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further from finance?
Nothing further, Mr. Mayor.
Excellent. With that, we'll move on to 10B, which is Public Safety and Welfare Committee. Alder Host.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve an application for a reserve Class B intoxicating liquor and Class B fermented malt beverage license from Yishan Asian Eatery, LLC, doing business as Yishan Asian Eatery, located at 507 West Verona Avenue, Suite 100, Shinley Agent.
Motion by Alder Host. Is there a second?
Second.
I think Alder Keller had it. Alder Host.
Thank you. The applicant is opening Yishan Asian Eatery later this fall in a vacant commercial space located at 507 West Verona Avenue. The applicant has signed a lease and is currently completing the build-out, and I am told we can expect that maybe mid-December. Staff recommend approval of the license contingent upon receipt of final payment and final inspections.
Motion before the body. Questions or comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion. I'm sorry, were there contingencies on the application, or did I mishear you at the end?
Contingent upon receipt of final payment and final inspections.
Okay, and that was the understanding the second as well? Okay. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the application for reserve Class B intoxicating liquor license and Class B fermented malt beverage license from Yishan Asian Eatery, LLC, doing business as Yishan Asian Eatery, located at 507 West Verona Avenue, Suite 100, Shinley Agent, signify, with the contingency specified, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder Host.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to make a motion to approve an application for a temporary Class B fermented malt beverage license from D. Baldock, Verona Area Community Theater for the Cabaret Showdown on Friday, November 21st, 2025.
Motion by Alder Host. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Harrison. Alder Host.
Thank you. VACT is requesting a temporary license to sell beer at their event on November 21st, 2025, and staff recommend approval of the license.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions or comments on this motion? Alder Lytle.
I'll note that I don't feel conflicted voting on this, but I'll add a shameless plug that a certain city council member will be taking part in the production. And just to note that this is the first time that any of us are aware of that VACT has actually conducted a fundraiser purely for the organization as opposed to the shows they put on. So please buy tickets.
Other questions or comments from the council? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the application for a temporary Class B fermented malt beverage license from D. Baldock, Verona Area Community Theater for the Cabaret Showdown on Friday, November 21st, 2025, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further from Public Safety?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to 10C, which is Public Works, Sewer, and Water Committee. Alder Tucker Long.
Thank you. I move to approve the construction inspection services contract for Apex Phase 2 Drager Development to JT Engineering for a cost not to exceed $89,720.
Motion by Alder Tucker Long. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Keller. Alder Tucker Long.
Thank you. Apex Phase 2, the Drager development, will be constructed this year. Staff recommend contracting construction inspection services with JT Engineering. JT Engineering has inspected the previous phase of construction and is currently contracted on multiple other projects within the city. All fees associated with the inspection services are the responsibility of the developer. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions or comments on this motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the construction inspection services contract for Apex Phase 2, which is the Drager development with JT Engineering, with the cost not to exceed amount, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder Tucker Long.
Thank you. I move to approve the inspection services contract for Avalon Bridge with KL Engineering for a cost not to exceed $113,337.60.
Motion by Alder Tucker Long. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Keller. Alder Tucker Long.
Avalon Ridge will be constructed this year. Staff recommends contracting construction inspection services with KL Engineering. KL Engineering has inspected previous private development projects and is currently contracted on another project within the city. All fees associated with the inspection services are the responsibility of the developer. Staff recommend approval.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions or comments on this motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the construction inspection services contract for Avalon Ridge with KL Engineering with the not to exceed amount, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further for Public Works?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to item 11, which is new business. We have one item, 11A, which is a discussion and possible action regarding the Fred Verona Development Agreement, Phase 2. Mr. Aulick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The developer wishes to proceed with Phase 2 of Apex at Verona. The following provisions apply in the proposed agreement. Phase 2 public improvements will commence on or about November 15th, 2025, with substantial completion anticipated within 18 months, subject to contract terms and city approval. No water service is required for Phase 2 parklands. However, occupancy permits will not be issued until a water looping system with at least 2 water connections is installed and accepted by the city. The developer has coordinated with adjacent developments, which are Whispering Coves and Kettle Creek North, to construct a 12-inch water main in the Harvest Moon Trail and Hemlock Trail rights-of-way, which are Exhibit D. The developer must provide a letter of credit or surety bond in the amount specified in Article 4 of the agreement. And lastly, staff recommend approving the Phase 2 development agreement contingent on final approval by the city attorney, city administrator, and other applicable staff.
Thank you for that explanation. questions, comments, or motions on this item? Alder Humke.
I move to approve the Fred Verona Development Agreement Phase 2 contingent upon final approval by the city attorney, city administrator, and other applicable staff.
Motion by Alder Humke. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Harrison. Motion before the body. Questions or comments on this motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the Fred Verona Development Agreement Phase 2 with the contingency specified signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. With that, we'll move on to item 12, which is old business. We have one item, which is 12A, discussion and possible action regarding the development agreement, Argus Apartments Affordable Housing Project. My understanding is that a representative of the Argus Apartments has a presentation.
They go left or right?
Left, I believe, left.
It's my good side.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sean O'Brien. I represent North Point Development, and I'm here to continue the discussion on the city finance loan for the Argus Apartments. Let's see if I can. I'm going to set this down. Get that in there. All right.
Hey, we can see it.
Perfect. Oh, that's not the slideshow. It's on my computer. Let's see. Nope. If I start the slideshow, then I think it goes back to the.
Are you in presenter mode?
I have no idea what you're talking about. I've just learned how to use Zoom.
If you press Windows P and duplicate instead of extend.
Okay, so Windows P.
Yeah,
You know what? This will be fine. You can see what we have. It won't be super polished this way, but that's all right. You still understand the point. So anyway, first of all, I just want to thank each and every one of you of taking multiple minutes and hours to kind of discuss this project, this proposal. I believe I was here 3 or 4 months ago to talk about this opportunity, and since then I know that this council has met and continued discussions. What I can say is that it's oh wow. Oh, well, anyway, what I can say is that it is our common goal to create the best possible project here, and I certainly appreciate the feedback and guidance that council has given. I want to just take a couple of minutes to walk through some of the items to maybe fully explain where we're coming from. We did receive a copy of the development agreement. We proposed some red lines to that development agreement, incorporating as best what we believe is possible with this development, and then hopefully also incorporating a lot of the items that were important to the council. But to kind of kick that off and get that started, I just wanted to walk through this development again. It's it's a 60-unit mixed-use building. Is this on the PDF, or am I doing this?
Mara.
You're doing that? Oh. All right. Well, see, I was like, what is going on? So anyway, I thought it was very important to just bring up a couple of the renderings again. I'm seeing a couple of new faces on the council, and what we're presenting here is basically a reiteration of a market rate development that was approved by council in 2022, but was not moved forward by the developer at that time. My understanding is that the current market conditions made this project not feasible to continue on as a market rate. Originally, it was about 64 units and a little bit more commercial space, and we've taken kind of the bones of that building to kind of maintain what we would call like I would say a very beautiful building, but yet it's also workforce affordable housing. Next slide, please. And this building has some really neat amenities, including about a 5,000 square foot plaza that's over the underground parking. We do have 61 underground parking spaces to go with the 60 units, and then on-site parking as well. Next slide, please. And here's a shot of that plaza. Next slide, please. I did also want to just touch on, as one of the questions or one of the items that were listed on the development agreement had to do with apartment amenities. We do intend and do at all of our projects include a community room and exercise facility with equipment for tenants to use. Here are a couple of examples. The top left is a project in Sun Prairie. The top right is a recent project that we completed in Monona, Wisconsin. The bottom left is our standard kitchen that we've been putting into our projects over the last couple of years, which include backsplashes, nice cabinets, stainless steel appliances, solid surface countertops. This project had quartz. We've been using quartz on most of all of our projects over the last few years. Next slide, please. And then this gets a little bit harder to see, but what I wanted to accomplish with this slide was to show you some of the amenities that we're putting into this project. If you can, well, is there a way to zoom in on that by chance? Otherwise, I can try to do it on my computer. Okay. Do you mind if I take the controls back here? All right, perfect. So this is just a bit of our first floor plan. You'll see that we have, about 1,100 square foot community room. We'll have a rental office here on site, which is standard. We'll have a parcel room and a mail room. We also will have an office that's located right here that is for our service coordinator that will be at the property on a weekly basis. And then down here we have an exercise room that we would have all of our standard exercise equipments, treadmills, bikes, some free weights, that sort of thing. All right. And then I just did a little screenshot. I did submit this to Jamie and your attorney as well. There was a lot of comments on the developer agreement about amenities that the council would like to see this project have. And we totally agree on these amenities, but we're working with a very tight site. So all of our amenities are really kind of compacted onto this 5,000 square foot patio. So what I tried to show on this diagram, and I have some pictures on the next few slides, is, some planter, let me pull that down a little bit. Some planter boxes that we would put up on the plaza for tenants to use, and to basically, to grow fruits and vegetables in as they'd like to. And we have a grill station here that will have 2 gas grills that, tenants can use on the plaza as well. A pergola area, and you can see a handful of picnic tables, but this will basically be the main area for our tenants to congregate. And then the big section to the right is reserved for our, kids play area. We're working to get some sort of some sort of, I guess, playground surface that works well. And the rest of this will be concrete and some pavers, but this will be kind of that, park material surface. And then we're working through some different options that we would put onto the playground. And then, let's see, let's click the next picture. Zoom out a little bit. There we go. So what I try to include here is a couple of pictures of items that I've seen on other plaza decks. So this is a rendering, or actually a picture of another project that has a significant underground parking structure. It's just like a 180 unit building, but it gives you a good idea of amenities on a plaza. So when we talk about putting playground equipment, we'll be working with provider to get some sort of climbing equipment that we can put there, and just a few options. But you can see that there's a turf life alike material that kind of makes this playground area suitable for that type of equipment. And then this is a kind of a picture of what those planter boxes look like. So this apartment complex also had, took that example of utilizing on-site planter boxes. To the right is a patio that we have in Monona, where we just finished this project in November of last year. You can see the picnic tables and the patio furniture that we've put out there, and an example of the gazebo and the grilling station that we use at that property as well. So all these amenities can be put up onto the plaza. So then we have this shade structure. It can be a pergola. It can also act as kind of a covered roof area as well, depending on how the tenants want to. There's a little lever here on the side that tenants can kind of open and close those gates however they want to use it. So it works out pretty well. And then just kind of lastly, one of the comments, being surrounded, I just wanted to show the site plan. So at this point, our plans are completed with our architect. They're actually submitted to the City of Verona for plan review. And as you can see, our site is very tight. We have, some green space, but not a lot. In fact, I think I was just out at this site a couple of weeks ago, and so right now it's just currently a parking lot, right, with a restaurant. And so we're not really adding more impervious area, but we're utilizing as best as we can the site itself. To the north, we did work with the city engineer to get this path a little bit wider for fire truck access, et cetera. But you'll see that backs up right to the property line, so we'll be building a block retaining wall. I will say that one of the comments were having an ADA pedestrian path from the north exit of the building to the convenience store. As you can see, there's not a lot of room, on our site plan. We actually don't have a true door on the north side of the building. So what we do have is we have our front entrance with a ramp down to the sidewalk here. And then we do have an ADA exit onto the plaza with a ramp that goes down to this sidewalk. And we added an additional ramp here to allow for folks to have an ADA access point to the sidewalk, which then also gets availability to businesses to the east and convenience store to the north. So we do have some significant access points for folks to utilize. And then that was basically all of the, I just wanted to kind of highlight, how we're accomplishing to put the amenities in that was listed. Again, there was a lot of other items that I'm here to, answer any questions about. I don't know if you had a chance to read the memo that I submitted or any of the red lines that we're proposing, but I'm certainly here to answer any questions that you might have for some of the other items as well.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the council?
Thank you. There were a couple of places where you referenced the WIDA agreement, and I think one of them was, sorry for not having it handy. Well, while I'm looking that up, you talk about, as opposed to committing to a specific high speed, how you're defining high speed access and what other assurances we would have that wouldn't get bogged down with more people working from home or needing to do other activities that require high speed.
Yeah, so what we're committing to here, and why I think this is a good use of the funds, is we're committing to a 40-year affordability. WIDA requires 30 years, and so we're already committing to an additional affordability period there. We are working with a couple of different groups, and so we're trying to figure out pricing. But basically what we've done on other properties, and WIDA does require that we have free in-unit internet to all of the residents, which we are committing to for 30 years. When we have been working with a couple of different groups to provide internet, what typically happens is, we'll bring in all the infrastructure to the building. We'll work with a couple of different vendors, and depending on which vendor we go with, they will have a baseline amount of of internet service that each unit gets. And then if that unit decides that that level of speed isn't good enough, because whether it's 20, 100, 500 a gig, that tenant can upgrade that service for a minimal charge, significantly less than purchasing their own internet. So we have done on other projects where we provide a baseline 20 megabits, or am I saying that incorrectly? But we've also worked with other companies. You know, for example, there's a group out of Madison that can tap into the Madison broadband, and it starts at 100. And if tenants don't want to do 100, they can easily upgrade. They don't have to call Charter or TDS. They can work through one of the groups that we work with is called ResTech, where they can work through with them to upgrade their level of service to meet their needs. But it is significantly less expensive than buying something from Charter or TDS. And so my point is that we're committing to providing that internet and for that long period of time, and we're trying to work through which company would be working with to provide that and what sort of options we have to be able to maintain operations of the project. But typically we've seen that the level of internet service provided works for streaming and works for all of their devices in the units. And then if someone has a need to, if they're gaming or want more, there's a significantly easier process of getting that internet increased for a low cost.
Thank you. And then just the other one was one of our suggested requirements was community room available at no cost. I think you referenced, and that was stricken in your red line version. Can you explain a little bit of the details of how that would work? Not necessarily the space, but how that process looks at your other facilities.
Yeah, and I don't recall, I should have studied why I crossed that out. I don't know, maybe if I reference that into one other paragraph. But basically all of the amenities, whether it be exercise room, community room, they're usable by the tenants at no cost. The only time that there's a transaction that occurs there is if a tenant wants to reserve the community room. Let's say they want to have a birthday party there or a baby shower or some sort of graduation party. They can reserve it privately, and they put down a $100 deposit for cleaning or damage. And so as long as they leave the community room the way they found it, then those funds get returned. But there is no charge. There's no fee to utilize the spaces, and tenants have access to those spaces. Yeah.
Other questions from the council? I guess we can move into general discussion of this item. This is, of course, a negotiation, and so we can convene in closed session if we want to discuss finer points of the back and forth. If people are comfortable making a decision right here, right now, we can just do that in open session. And obviously, of course, any decision would be made in open session. So I guess I would open up to questions or comments. Alder Tucker-Long.
This may actually be a question for Sean. Sorry, it took a second to formulate in my head.
That's perfect. I'm here.
So one of the things that came up was for the service provider, we had requested that it be a licensed social worker. And that part was struck out, but also you have a room specifically on site. Is that required? Is the service coordinator's office on site required for one of your other
Yes.
contingencies?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So WIDA in this latest round was looking for a private place on site for tenants to meet with an on-site service coordinator. And we're working with Lutheran Social Services to provide services. At least that was part of our application to WIDA. What we're committing to is about $13,000 a year out of the budget. That switches from our old model that we worked with LSS, where we would have more of a light touch supportive service model where LSS would be a part of the lease up and then working on site on a quarterly basis to try to connect tenants to services that are available in the community and that sort of thing. And we're switching now into more of that standardized weekly touch. $13,000 gets us 4 hours a week. And so, one of the requests was to go to 16 hours a week. That ends up being about maybe a $65,000, $70,000 difference in what the project was budgeting. But we share the same, goals and outcomes. And so, we'll continue to work on ways to try to increase the number of on-site services. One being, we actually met with LSS last week, and, I think logistically down the road for us as an organization, we have, currently I think 7 properties in Dane County with 3 under construction and another 2 that could start construction. And if we start talking about, these 5 properties having the light touch service model, and then these, 6, 7 properties start to have these, part-time, employees that are going to be there weekly, would it make more sense for us as a company to just hire someone through LSS? So North Point Development, Dane County Properties, hire a service coordinator, a full-time service coordinator, and then allocate that person to the properties versus saying, okay, well, this, townhome project that we have opening next month in Oregon also has, 4 hours. Well, where do you find a 4-hour person a week, but for maybe hiring someone and working through it? So we are continuing to kind of try to figure out ways of making it more streamlined for our properties specifically in Dane County. And, but, this is a roundabout way to answer your question of, yes, part of the WIDA program in this last year was, again, have a space on site. And so we've really also found that it's best, like, a property manager doesn't want to walk out of their, office when someone wants to meet, and it's not great to meet in the community room because someone else might want to use that. And so that's why you have that specific office. And then in terms of, that hiring that person from LSS, they hire, a support service coordinator, and that person has to have experience in working in this type of environment, has to have, schooling, education. They typically have, LSS has licensed case managers that these folks, the service coordinators report to, but the industry, at least the model LSS is running, is not having a licensed service worker at the properties. Again, that there's someone that has that credentials and those licenses that kind of oversee casework and that sort of thing, but that's when I talked to them, that was their model, and so that's why I wanted to show, hey, this is what we are doing, but not get these documents, development agreement, all these other loan agreements. Our tax credit investor and our lenders are going to comb through them and go, can you actually meet these things, and do we want to, is it going to be too difficult where that could cause issues? And so we just wanted to, show you, hey, these are the commitments that we have made and how we're going to try to accomplish that. And then as a company, we're still trying to find ways to keep moving that forward and do more.
Okay. I know that when a couple of us met with the JFF social workers that work in this area, one of the things they strongly recommended is a licensed social worker, because what they're finding is in a lot of organizations, I'm not saying LSS specifically, they were very general, but what they're finding is that if it's just a caseworker, which doesn't require a license or specific schooling, a lot of times they're causing more harm than good, and then it's causing a lot of problems. And so they strongly encouraged a licensed social worker, because that person has to have the credentials and the education and things like that. So I would really, really encourage you to see if there's a way to get a licensed social worker, just for the best possible outcomes.
Yeah, again, it's certainly something that I can, work on and talk through with LSS. This is what they do. They provide social services. They house folks in need of supportive services, and they've been doing it for a really long time. They are transitioning, again, their model from a light touch to and I did submit documentation of our supportive service plan, and all the things that LSS will be providing and working through as part of the materials to Jamie and Brian.
Awesome. And I just want to clear up that I wasn't saying anything negative about LSS, just passing along the advice we got. So thanks.
Alderman Hopke.
I just want to piggyback on that. It's sort of coinciding with what Alder Tucker Long had said, like part of the reason for the social services is the complex, maybe previously the cases were less complex, but what we're seeing in our community, potentially another one of your properties, is just like more complicated services that are needed. And that's just a function of what people, you know, the escalated needs that people have right now due to the current environment of, you know, how money, shortage of access to food and other things that, you know, in our community. So really, I echo what she says. I'm not saying I wouldn't vote for this because of it, but I just really think that that direction is really important. And I get that, you know, LSS has been doing this, but what the people who are living in this and working in this community are telling us is that that is what we need. So I think it's unique. I don't think it's unique to us, but I think it's an evolving situation that's happening given the current world, United States environment. And I just want to say that I agree with what she is suggesting you to look into further. So,
Other questions, comments? I guess I have a question for Mr. Kleinmeyer. Is the agreement basically ready to approve tonight, or will there be more work that needs to be done?
I would say there's significantly more work that needs to be done. In other words, to Mr. O'Brien's credit, he provided what I believe that I've seen the most detailed response to a red line document with an explanation. I mean, the explanations are more than what I'm used to seeing from developers when they disagree with what municipal positions are. And so that's a lot of credit, but it's also a lot of information for the council to review. And then essentially what we need at a staff level, and it, you know, is either tonight or at a subsequent meeting to get feedback from the council as to what the council's position is in response to the explanation on some of the terms and conditions that you were looking to have in there. And then essentially what we would do at a staff level is take that information from the council, further redline the document, likely share it with Mr. O'Brien and his council before the next meeting to see what their, you know, reactions are. And then, you know, depending on how that goes, you know, we bring it back, but I don't believe we're in a position to approve anything tonight.
Okay, so you're generally just looking for kind of guidance, like it's almost done and proceed, or we have additional feedback. Is that what it is? Or?
Well, I think mainly what we need to do is we need to probably walk through the memo that Mr. O'Brien provided and get information from the council as to, are you okay with the changes and the explanations that were provided, or are you not? And if not, how should we react to that? That's essentially then going to inform staff as to how it reacts to the red line document that we've received.
So then you're saying we should do this in closed session, and
that would be the typical process. We would be in closed session to react to it. You obviously can do it in open session if you want. I mean, the only thing that I want to say is I don't want to. There's a lot of information that you received from me, and so if you're prepared to respond to it tonight in closed session or in open session, we are prepared to listen and do what we need to do. If you believe that you need another 2 weeks to wrap your arms around all of the information that was provided to you, you know, I never want to rush the council into making a decision or providing feedback.
Gotcha. Alder Tucker Long.
Sean, what kind of timeline do you need from us?
That's a tricky question. You know, we are looking. We have a couple different deadlines. The biggest one for me is, you know, we're looking to purchase this building next week. We originally came to the council with a need for gap financing to make this project move forward. Again, my approach here is to try to work together and make this project the best project that we can go and create together. But at the same time, you know, and there's a handful of red lines and explanation of why we couldn't do exactly what you'd be looking for, but we're trying to attempt this in other ways. But really kind of getting an understanding of, you know, if the council is still in support of this loan for the project, the sooner the better. You know, it's certainly an interesting situation to, you know, kind of be purchasing the building next week. That being said, in terms of, you know, having documentation that we have signed so we can include that with our, you know, applications, that's more towards like a November timeline. So I think we have more than enough time there to get what we need. But yeah, it's certainly, temperature check of, is this, is this a project that we want to work on together is kind of what I'm looking for sure.
Okay, just to follow up with that, I just want to say that I'm excited about this project. I think it's really cool. I do think we have some stuff to discuss still, but the rest of my comments are for a closed session, so.
Okay. Does anyone want to make any further comments in open session? Otherwise.
I'd just like to say thank you that I feel there was a lot of requests on here, and appreciate the willingness to work with the council on trying to get to common ground and trying to get to a solution that's going to work for the city of Verona as well as for the future residents.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate your time. Again, I know that you've spent a lot of time on this project, and that is very much appreciated. And yeah, I guess, if there are any other questions that do come up, I can come back in a couple weeks.
Before I entertain a motion to go into closed session, I guess I would put it to the council, does anyone feel comfortable just doing this in open session right now? Because we could. Okay. With that, I would entertain a motion to go into closed session on this topic. Alder Tucker Long.
I move that we go into closed session to discuss the development agreement with Argus Apartments Affordable Housing Project. The Common Council may convene in a closed session as authorized by Wisconsin Statute 19.85 sub 1 sub E for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons deem a closed session necessary. The Common Council may reconvene in an open session to discuss and take action on the subject matter discussed in the closed session.
Motion by Alder Tucker Long. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Humke. This is a roll call vote. And Clerk Lick will be so kind as to read the roll.
Alderperson Harrison?
Aye.
Alderperson Helmke?
Aye.
Alderperson Hoaxed?
Aye.
Alderperson Keller?
Aye.
Alderperson Lytle?
Aye.
Alderperson Swanson?
Aye.
Alderperson Tucker Long?
Aye.
And Alderperson Weiss?
Aye.
Okay, we will convene in the large conference room for the closed session, and then we'll reconvene back here when we're done.
Quick question, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry. Did you want Mr. Sievertson in the closed session?
Lachlan's back on. All right. All right, it is 9:01 PM. We are back in open session. Does anyone have anything to add on this item for open session? I will just add myself that negotiations, discussions are continuing, and we expect to have something within the next month or two. With that, we'll move on to item 13, which is adjournment.
So moved.
Motion by Alder Hoaxed. Is there a second? Seconded by Alder Humke. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no?
Aye.
And we adjourned at 9:01 PM. Thank you.